a couple of years ago, I started doing platelet donations where it's kind of like a blood donation, but they just sort of centrifuge off the platelets and then give you your red blood cells back.
Yeah, yeah.
So I had started doing a blood donation, and then when I was there, there was, a poster of all these different types of blood that you can donate, where I'm like, I thought it was just kind of blood. And then you take what you take. But then when they explained the platelet one, I started doing that. I'm like, oh, I wonder what else is in me that, they can just chop off and take and regrows. And it turns out that your liver will just regrow. So I thought about it for like a year because I'm kind of impulsive. So I'm like, I don't want to just give away half my liver on a whim. So I thought about it for a long time, probably about a year. And then last October, I did, I think it was about 56%. Johns Hopkins took 56% of my liver.
Really?
Yeah. And gave it to someone who had liver disease, who was going to pass.
Dude.
And
No way.
that was something that I really had to wrestle with because I wanted to help the most people possible. And the platelets I could do frequently. I could do that every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And there was all sorts of things that I wanted to do with my career that would help a ton of people, and all sorts of, ways I could donate money, that, how to maximize that. But after taking a step back, I'm like, I can help one person in a very profound way. And I just thought about it for a long time. And eventually I'm like, all right, I'm going to email a hospital. Like, hey, you want a liver? And believe it or not, of course, people do want organs, apparently.
So, did you really just email someone at the hospital?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
I'm like, hey, I'm considering a liver donation. I'm not for sure going to do it, but would you be interested in just, walking me through the process and, getting me more familiar with it? And I started out at Penn, and they did the introductory stuff and then just stopped responding to everything. So I don't know whether there was some disconnect, maybe somebody left a job, but I was like, all right, if this is how they're treating, like, not that I felt wronged, but I'm like, if this is how structured they are with someone who could make an organ donation happen, I don't know if I want to keep going here. So I went to the much more illustrious Johns Hopkins and I emailed, or it was not really as much an email as it was like filling out a little form of like, I'm considering this, get in touch with me, and this is my phone number and email.
Okay.
And then they had me go through, blood tests. They did. I could have gotten probably like $40,000 worth of free medical diagnostics and then just left because I wasn't bound to do anything. So I had like multiple MRIs, CT scans, lots of blood work done. I met with tons of specialists. And then up until the moment,
how much does a liver cost? Man,
dude, I kind of wanted to ask them, like, how much money am I making you guys? Because,
well, it's clearly worth all the
so much. I mean, there were so many people who were in touch with me, and it was great. I mean, they could not have been more thorough with it, but I don't like talking about it because I don't know how to communicate it without it sounding like, I gave half my liver. What did you do last year, Nathan?
Yeah, no, I understand.
So I don't know how to talk about it without it coming in a way that is just applicable to this conversation. Like when you said helping one person, that was something I really struggled with.
How did it feel afterwards? Was it confirmed, like, you felt so much better about the liver compared to anything else you had done, which kind of had a broader impact?
That was another thing I want to talk to you about, is how to manage expectations.
Okay.
Where I feel like it's a well-intended piece of advice when people say that the way to never be disappointed is to just not have any expectations.
Yeah.
Which, sure, you're not going to be disappointed, but I feel like you're also casting away a lot of the beauty of looking forward to an event that you're going to
Yes.
really revel in, you know, this person who you miss, this activity that you know you really like.
Yeah.
Why would you not have some level of enjoyment before the event where you get to think, I'm going to do this thing that I really enjoy? It can be a great
Absolutely.
motivator.
Exactly. Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, it's quite literally like the dopamine anticipation. It's for the purpose of motivation and really getting you inspired to do stuff. Yeah, it's good.
So I wanted to hear your thoughts on that. Where is there a balance between avoiding that disappointment, or do you just cast that to the breeze and say, you know, I want to experience it fully, the disappointment and the enjoyment, whether it turns out to be what I want or not? Because that was something where you said, did it feel better than anything you could have imagined? That was something that I kind of did have to hype myself up with. I'd watch videos on YouTube of like organ donor recipients, and they're like so excited. And I'm like, all right, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can do this. It's going to be fine. It's going to be great for somebody else, and it's going to be fine for me.
Yeah.
And it was using that as a motivator, but then do you just then sort of embrace the disappointment if it's not what you expected it to be, or do you brush off the disappointment saying, you know, it is what it is, things aren't always going to play out how they want to be or how I wanted it to be? Or do you really just feel that low?
You feel, yeah, like, you know, if I donate my liver and I just think they're just a crappy person, like,
right, like, why did I do that?
I was imagining like this little kid that was the perfect angel.
Okay, yeah.
But it's just a regular dude.
That was me, yeah. Like, I was picturing little Sally.
It's just going to be a regular person, though. You know?
Yeah. No, it was somebody, I'm going to violate HIPAA because I'm not a doctor. It was somebody my age who lives not all that far away. And I was cool.
They like destroyed their liver by drinking excessively. Maybe not. I don't know.
I've spoken with him, and he had some genetic disease. Whether he drank too much or not, I don't know. But the hospital did ask me, the surgeon asked me beforehand, he's like, so one of the potential recipients is a middle-aged man. I think he said he's about late 50s, maybe 60 years old. Would you be okay if we consider him? You're welcome to say yes or no. And
this is so interesting. You had to say and who you gave your liver to, which makes sense, but
I ended up just not putting any sway on it.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, I'm going to leave that entirely up to you guys. I'm not going to put a single restriction. You can pick an 80-year-old grandmother. If that's who you choose, that's who you choose. Like, I didn't want to then, you know, section off, you know, well, I have this age cutoff, or like, you know, I specifically want it to be a kid. It was really easy to picture it a kid because, you know, like you said, this picture of innocence of like, they have so much life to live that like statistically it's like, well, you're going to get more years.
Right. Yeah.
So it was easy to picture that, and ended up being neither of those extremes. It was
right in the middle.
Yeah. So it wasn't this great event. You know, all the videos I watched, and I didn't expect that to really happen, of like this reunion of like the donor and the recipient, and they like have some loving embrace. But like, I kind of didn't really want or expect that, but it was still nice to see this great positive result of something that I was considering. And then afterwards, it just kind of hurt. It was
physically.
Yeah, it was just unpleasant.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not in contact with the recipient. I don't know how they're doing. I'm there just like, wow, this kind of is no fun. And
how much of your liver has grown back? Do you know?
They didn't do a scan, but according to the blood work, it's all back.
All of it?
90 plus.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm really good at that.
I'm like a Olympian.
Really good at regrowing organs. Yeah.
That's crazy. They took 56% of it. And
At least. I'd have to double check. It was over 50 because that was another thing they asked there, because there a limit on how much you're okay giving.
I don't know. You're supposed to tell me that.
And that's what I said.
I'm not sure how much would I need.
I'm like, honestly, take whatever you want. And they did. They definitely did. So there's
That's
two lobes.
crazy.
There's one side, the right lobe is significantly bigger. Like it's this big chunk on one side and it sort of tapers off onto the left.
Okay.
And they can either take the left lobe or the right lobe. Both are going to regrow in the same way. And so really the question was, do you want us to take the left or the right? And well, that's entirely up to you. You can take whatever you see fit for the recipient. And it was hard to then, with all of the lead up, to not have some level of expectation as a motivator, but then to not have it be very disappointing when after the fact, it's like any surgery and you're just laying in a hospital bed like, wow, this is a real surgery and doesn't feel good. Mm-hmm. So like, would I have been better off to just not done all of that motivational stuff and just been like, all right, this is going to be really, potentially really unpleasant.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, essentially doing it again. Like, you know exactly what to expect.
I'm glad I can't. You can only do it once, one and you're done. So it's not something I have to consider.
You don't have to think about it. But it's in theory, like your expectations are completely correct. And you're just doing it because, well, you know, it's the right thing to do. So I'm going to do it.
I like to think that I would.
Mm. But it was a lot of time, a lot of scans, checkups, surgery.
That part was fine. Yeah, that last one was the one. That was the one I didn't care for.
Me open.
Yeah. That part I could take or leave.
That's funny. Which one's better? I don't know. I mean, like, if we can deceive ourselves into doing things that are better than what we're normally capable of, is that really so bad?
Maybe,
or things that are better than what we normally want to do.
Maybe it was a healthy deception, because that's a good point. Maybe I wouldn't have followed through on something that I'm glad I did, because I'm dumb and I convinced myself. Well, okay. I mean, like most things, there's obviously a balance, right? You know, it would be foolhardy to just have wild expectations of everything. But I think the advice that I've heard frequently of the way to not be disappointed shields you from a lot of the emotions that I think are a vital part of just feeling life. I mean, I don't want to just go through life and never cry, of like never be sad because, you know, you expect bad things to happen all the time. I don't think that's a fun or fulfilling way to go through life.
That's terrible.